This is my talk about rendering videos through PhreakNIC. Who here knows of the program, the site YouTube?
I've heard of it.
It's a little known place. So, my talk is a talk that involves other talks. So I make it a exception. So first off, why should you pay attention to me? I'm a husband. I'm a daddy. I have 2 degrees, a bachelor's in electrical engineering, a master's in software engineering. I'm from Huntsville. I'm a geek, and I pronounce it poiupoiu. So a little background on me. In high school, I was on dial-up, on a separate computer, not connected to the internet at all. And I would come across these 700 megabyte AVI files. What's so cool? How did they do that? Well, we got into video compression. And so I read, and I read, and I read and read and read. And I learned that XVID and variable bitrate MP3s, that's awesome. More recently, X264 and AAC and an MKV container is even awesomer. So video compression is fun for me. Video editing is just another step from it. And it's something I'm still learning. So a little bit of my background of the talk. I'm not actually going to cover the recording of these videos, just only how I put everything together. So for that, SkyDogCon 2013 had Iron Geek and SkyDog did a talk of con video rig enhancements. And are there other ways of doing this? Of course. SkyDog and Iron Geek, they use what's called Open Broadcaster, and they actually combine everything on the fly, as live. I'm doing this as a post-processing. That way I can add fun little fade-ins, fade-outs. I can clip the audio, clip the video, that kind of those little tweaks. But mostly this is going to be a demonstration. So, gotta have me. Yo, dog, I heard you like talks. So I put a talk in a talk, so you can talk about a talk while you talk. So a couple handy tools that I always recommend for video stuff. On the Windows side, VirtualDub and VirtualDub Mod. Those are 2 separate programs. Audacity is, of course, open source. FFmpeg and FFplay, FF Player, that's always cool. Not AVConf. Some people say, oh, that's what Ubuntu uses, so I'm going to use that. There's a big split. I can get into that sidewise. MPlayer, always cool. AVI Demux is kind of like VirtualDub for Linux and is actually cross-platform and open source. VLC, everyone knows that. X264 is probably the best 264 encoder. I do not recommend OpenShot, and I'll get to that in a second. I used to start with that, and then I found a bunch of issues with it, and so I switched over to a program called Kdenlive. So originally I started off, there we go. I learned how to do everything on Windows using DVD shrink, DVD decryptor, AVI synth, VirtualDub mod, XVID, Lang, all that fun stuff. And eventually I jumped to the Linux side of things in 2012, and I can do everything now in Make MKV and FFmpeg. Command line from as soon as after I get the source to my drive, I can do everything in FFmpeg. I'm not a big fan of one button, click it, alright, yeah, I have a backup. I'm not a big fan of that, but if I had to recommend what I'd say, Handbrake. Just because it actually gets into everything, all the settings. So now we're going to talk a second about OpenShot. Jonathan Thomas, a software engineer developer in Texas, wasn't happy with the video editing tools that existed for Linux in 2008. So he made one of his own. Alright, no problem with that. He wanted it to be easy to use, powerful, stable, built on the Python, GTK, MLT framework, and FFmpeg and Blender. Okay, not a problem with that. It can work with AVC HD videos, which is what the Canon video recorders actually record to, and a lot of what handheld camcorders do, and open source and free. Cool. So basically he said, I'll make my own video editor with blackjack and hookers. So version 1.4 is the most recent one at the time of writing this, and it's Linux only. Version 2 is in the works. There was a Kickstarter in April 2013, and it was fully kickstarted. Awesome. And he was promising new features. He was promising cross-platform, a total rewrite of the entire thing, a new library at the heart. He was wanting Windows, Linux, and Mac. And it's still in development. There we go. All right. Alright, so why I don't recommend OpenShot. So there's some known and unfixed bugs in it. It crashed often on me. Saving the project, not actually exporting it, just saving the project file. It took a couple minutes for it to do. That shouldn't be happening. There was a single developer, which meant a single point of failure. So, for example, in July 2008, he said, my next update will be in about 30 days. And his next update was February 2015. A little more than 30 days. He was going through a house transition, so that was issue there. So, some other issues was that there is no audio waveform. You have to listen to everything, shift it just a little bit. All right, go back, listen to it. Oh, no. Shift it a little bit more. It's very hard whenever you get two signals very close to each other. You can't tell which one's out of sync. It uses percentages and not pixels. So you'd say 53.99% over here, rather than at pixel 800 by 600. And in some cases, it would do X and Y. And then it would do height and width, which is the Y, then X. So you have to pay attention to that. Whenever you would actually open up the properties of the clip, you could say, all right, I want to clip off 10 seconds of this. Thinking, all right, this is great. I just need another 10 seconds off. It would actually go back to the original clip and cut off 10 seconds from the beginning, and all your audio synchronization is just toast. There was no there was no automatic way of synchronizing the video, or the audio and video as well. You have to literally do it all by hand. And, as a nerd, it would not compress variable bitrate single pass 264 CRF. You would actually have to export it to a massive file using PNGs and waves, and then use FFmpeg to convert that down.
What is the highest, best compression? I know you kind of geeked out about it earlier. What was it again?
X264 is the encoder.
Yeah.
CRF is constant rate factor. It is basically a way of applying variable bit rate in a single pass. So with XVID, you can do 2 passes, and the first pass was basically dummy. And then the second pass would use a stats file created in the first pass to say, I can save some more bits right here, I can save some more bits here. With the CRF, you say, I want a constant rate factor of, the default's 23. I want a constant rate factor of something of 18. All right, cool. Higher file size, but you don't care about the file size. You want quality. Same, it's actually inversely. So a lower number is higher quality, higher number is lower quality. So it's very much I just want this quality, I don't care what the file size is. Another issue, it can only do 5 minutes at a time for a single frame. Now whenever I do all the title slides, I actually export it as a bitmap. And then, so every 5 minutes I'd have to add a new thing, stretch it out as long as I could. Put a new file, stretch that out. Put a new file, stretch it out. So for an hour-and-a-half long video, or for an hour-long talk, it got annoying. So I switched over to Kdenlive. It uses the MLT framework as well, called the Media 11 Toolkit. It was initially developed in 2002. Last stable release was in 2014. They've actually been picked up by the KDE framework just recently. It's KDE, as the name kind of implies, but if you use Linux and GNOME, you say, all right, well, add the PPA, Suneb, Kdenlive release package. Most recent release is actually in the Debbie and Jesse repos, and just sudo apt-get install Kdenlive. That's it. You know, it installs all the KDE libraries that it needs to actually run. And it can also work with AVC HD video, and is also free. Cool. So my basic process was to keep in mind, junk in, junk out. And we get the highest recordings you can. So if you get a little cell phone video that's wiggling all around, you can stabilize it a little bit, you can tweak the audio a little bit, but the more processing is more time, and it's just going to look worse. Video format, you just determine your resolution, whether it's interlaced or progressive, your frame rates, layout using algebra. Woo! Sync the video to audio, resize everything you need, do the transitions, export it, move on to the next one. So for PhreakNIC 17 and 18, I did 1920 by 1080 resolution, progressive, at 29.976 frames a second. That was the specs on the speaker Canon videos, so I just said, hey, I'll just go with that. It's a pretty standard specs on that. And I really was wanting 3 frames in one. A slide video, a title slide, and a speaker video. And the title slide itself was actually created in PowerPoint, since they can use Slide Master, and then I just export everything as bitmaps. So what I had to work with in PhreakNIC 17 was a 640 by 480 MP4, and PhreakNIC 18 I had 720 by 480 MP4 for the slide videos. Speaker videos, 1080p Canon recorder, and a WAV file. General layout that I used for PhreakNIC 19, we're just doing a single recording, so we just are going to do 2 frames. A speaker video and then a title slide, which I just cooked this up in 5 minutes in GIMP, but just centered here, centered vertically, and of course using algebra. Never thought you'd use that. So basically, just coming out with speaker feed at 1280 by 720 and title slide at 640 by 480, and then offset so it's centered on the y-axis, and then the title slide is bumped up right next to the speaker video. So with all that said, now time for the fun stuff. Okay. Let me. Here are my display. I'm actually going to try to go through rendering one of the videos right here. All right.
If I could give you the video for this, you could render your talk video about doing talks about talk.
Yeah. So the other thing I like about Kdenlive is instead of saying, this is it, you have to use this, it can actually generate a script file, which then, if you're really tricky, and this thought occurred to me last week, you can use a make file and then tell it to like make all your files depends on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, blah 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 blah, and each one of those depends on something else if you really wanted to. And then the command is run this script file. Well, then you can say, all right, make all dash, I think it's P for dash J for number of jobs. And you can say 3 jobs at once. Go, and it'll do 3 jobs at a time. Once one finishes, kick off the next one automatically. And then if you really get crazy, creepy, or crafty, you can put a shutdown script at the end. So literally start it up, run the command, walk away, and then a day later, after it's done crunching, done. So,
Did you use this laptop to do that?
I used this laptop to actually render all the videos, and Brimstone graciously provided me a box that had a much better bandwidth connection than I had at home, and that I could just leave on and render and let it go for days on end if I really wanted to. So, this is the Kdenlive interface. Over here is actually, can't see it just because of the resolution, but there's a job history, so you can tell it to undo. I'm going to right click and, oops, forgot one thing. So all the videos that we are going to use coming out of the recorder are actually MPEG 2. Now what's crazy about those is do an FF probe into 52. Probably can't see it on the recording, but it just says that here's the MPEG file. It's a duration of 52 minutes. Starts their bit rate of about 5 megabits. Stream 0 is a video. It's 72480 max bit rate of 9100 kilobits, 30 frames a second, etc., etc. Audio is AC3 audio stereo.
Is FF Probe a tool that you had to install?
FF Probe is a tool that comes with FFmpeg. And with that, if you actually compile it from the source, you can have access to the libfdk AAC encoder, which is a much higher bit rate, a much higher quality of an AAC encoder than like a FAAC, which is the free audio.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what footage was this done with which camera?
This was actually done with track 1, I believe. So it's just one of the ones that Ben has.
Okay, okay.
So this is the raw video itself. So since it's actually MPEG 2, we can do something very crazy and concatenate them together. It doesn't sound like it works, but it does. So we're going to concatenate this .mpg. All right, so now we have right here. You see a 2 gigabyte video, 130 megabyte video, and then a 2.2 gigabyte video. They just stuck them two together. Now the way that they can get away with this is in the MPEG container. Every frame it has what the bit rate is, it has what it's in all the container, it has all the information you need to play it. So concatenating them together, not a problem. So you can actually do a variable frame rate with MPEG. I hate MP4 because by default, FFmpeg puts the video container information at the very end. So if you've ever had like your cell phone recording and it bombed on you, the video is unplayable because it didn't write the file that has the little tail part of it that actually has all of the information saying this is MP4. It's running as a H.264 encoder for video and AAC audio at this bit rate at this frame rate.
I imagine that would happen fairly often if a phone dies in the middle of making a movie.
Yes. Now there's tools of fixing it,
Yeah.
but it's by default it's just a pain in the rear. MKV, not that way. MKV is also much freer with in terms of what you can put inside the MP4 or what you can put inside of the container in terms of subtitles, video codecs, audio codecs. So, and it's open source. MP4 is actually not open source. So now we have our. Let me do it. So you see, yep, there's the whole video. So see, it just goes straight into it. No problem. So that's what's fun about MPEG. All right, so now we're going to go back to Arcade and Live. We're going to input our demo and our slide. Okay? Now we're going to drag this guy to the bottom there. Our slide here. Our hand magically comes into the... And there's our...
You do it every 5 minutes?
Yeah, that got old really quick. So here, you can do split view, and you probably can't see this, but there's actually the source video here, and then there's the title slide here. It's just instead of overlaying them, it's actually displaying every single video itself. So now, what I'm going to do is just keep waiting.
Can you change their position? Is it just drag and drop?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you can kind of see a little bit in the waveform, which OpenShot did not have. Okay. So he started talking right about here. So I'm going to use the scissor tool right here. Cut. Delete that. Zoom back out. Scroll back over. Now he's right there. So we can, what is it? Double click on it, and we can say position it at 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 2 seconds. All right, there it is. Likewise, let's go ahead and skip to the end. Okay, so we'll cut the audio right. We'll cut it right there. Bam. Done. All right, let's go ahead and resize him down. Close enough. We're going to be playing with that later. So we are back here at the beginning. So the first thing that I like to do is take this guy and add what's called a transition, an affine transition. What that does is, instead of displaying the two videos side by side and one on top of each other and can't really do anything with it, it actually combines the two. And Control Z is built into this, so if you make a mistake, there's a history all along the right side here. Just because I'm paranoid, we're going to go ahead and save this in my desktop and demo. I'm just going to call this Sony, because it was from a defense of whoever you think was behind the Sony Pictures Entertainment breach. So now, I'm going to do some cool stuff. Let's bring him back to what we're actually going to be seeing. You're going to hear my, you can kind of see he is, there's the title slide right on top of the video slide. So now we want to take care of that. We want to go to this affine transition here. And our first frame is at, oops, that's not right. I can't really, do this. It processes what it calls, it goes everything off of keyframes. So Kdenlive is pretty slick about this. So at say 0 is our first keyframe by default, and there it's 1920 by 1080. All right, cool. It's just sitting there. At 2 seconds, let's put another keyframe. Here's right whenever we have our speaker starting. At 3 seconds, let's put another keyframe. So now, we want the title slide to be 640/480 at 1280 by 300. So 1280 by 300, 640/480. Done. Now, if you see, it'll actually interpolate between the keyframes where it'll go, and their size and everything for you. Slick. All right. So now we have this overlaying on top of the speaker. That's not very good. So now we're going to add an effect for crop and transform, and it is this one? No, not that one. Effect, crop and transform. It is pan and zoom. So we want to put the speaker video now at 1280 by 300 pixels offset, and I'm sorry, that's the title slide. At far left over, so 0 pixels, and 180 down at 1280 by 720. 1280, 720, 0, and 20. All right. Cool. So now we have this sliding in. Now let's add an effect, fade from black, which is the video portion. We're going to make this 1 second long. Okay. And we're also going to add a fade in, which is the audio portion. And we're going to make this 1 second long as well. So now we have our title slide for 2 seconds, and then it starts panning down. And as you hear my laptop kind of get. This is an i7 quad-core processor, so it's doing all of this in CPU near real time. So it's a lot to process. It's processing 1080p video. So now we have a fade in from audio and video lasting 1 second, and then the title slide sliding across. Cool. Let's go ahead and skip to the end, and let's pretty much do the same thing. So we have. Oops. Oh yeah. Open shot also, if you hit end, would do something different. It would go to the end of the entire project. So if you stack multiple videos on top of each other, or right after each other, it'd go to the very end of it. Kdenlive, if you hit end while selecting a picture, or an object, it'll actually go to the end of that object. Much more intuitive in my opinion. Okay, so we have now, we have some applause, and then that's it. So let's extend out the slide for another 3 seconds. So 55 minutes and 43 seconds, so 5 is what it was. Pinch it to 46, 05. Actually, let's do 45. All right. That's easy. Drag out our A-fine transition. Same thing. Effect, fade to black. Lasting 1 second. And effect, fade out. Lasting 1 second. And these right here are all the filters that are applied to the selected clip. So right here is just the actual title slide, nothing there. Right here is where all the properties are for the A-fine transition, and then right here is where all of the filters are applied to the slide video, or the speaker video. So now I got this ugly jump, fades out nicely, and then it goes bang. Well, let's do what we did before. So let's select end there. Cool. So now let's add a new keyframe right here. And let's add a new keyframe 2 seconds ago, 41. Cool. All right, keyframe added. Everything's happy there. This little button here is our go to the next keyframe that we've just added, which is now at the end. And let's add one in between, 42. Added. So right here is where we want to start the fade in, start the fade out. Right when the title slide to come in, and right whenever the fade out on the audio and fade to black start. So go to the last keyframe and want this to take up the entire thing. 1920 by 1080. And Kdenlive is nice enough where you can tell it to keep the aspect ratio. So in the case, this is a 800 by 600 bitmap. So that's a 4:3 ratio, and 1920 by 1080 is a 16:9. So if the aspect ratio wasn't kept, it just looked like it was stretched. Kind of like how this is not a circle, but it's an oval. All right. So now we have the slide out, and that's it. Let's save it all again.
You can script this.
I have not found a good way, just because every portion of for every, sometimes
be in different spots.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
you'd have to manually say it's all right here, and then you're already halfway done. So might as well just click, you're done. So now we want to click on our render button.
We also have that other problem where some of us speakers don't flip our slides exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, so there's that. If we incorporate other material, sometimes the video feed cut out and we're left with just audio. So in that case, do something with the title slide, make it bigger, do something with audio editing. So I didn't really demonstrate this, but Kdenlive also does have a ton of audio filters. I'm not sure you can see some of this, but like using the SOX thing, SOX, I think that's a program or a filter in itself.
Is that the noise removal like Audacity?
Yes, it does have noise removal. At least I'm pretty sure. Don't see that in there. But it's also easy to take the audio itself out and put it into Audacity, and there's audio tracks. You can overlay that right on. And you can add as many audio tracks as you want, and as many video tracks as you want. So now we're going to render this, and we want to do a file render. Cool. Using MPEG-4 or MP4, the H.264 AAC high profile, encoder threads 8. Sure. Video quality. This is the CRF I was talking about earlier. By default, just FFmpeg does 23 CRF, so it's not bad quality. 20 is better.
What's encoder threads?
Encoder threads is how many threads that for Kdenlive and the MLT and all this stuff to actually use on the processor. So you can specify, I only want to use 2 threads total.
Same as 2 cores?
Exactly.
Okay.
Or if you're running, if you're going to run 8, or if you're going to have 18 speakers to go at once, and you just want to limit it to 2 cores, and then be doing 2 or 3 at the same time, you can do it that way. Yes.
I'm sorry, is the one you're about to do, is it, you said it's high profile now for main profile as well? Or do you just do everything high profile?
I just do everything high profile.
CD,
CDR?
Are you just doing it, you're doing it variable or CDR?
Variable bitrate. Just that way, if there's something very static, you don't need 5 megabits to compress the same image 20 times, or for every 20 seconds. You can apply a much less bit rate to that, and ideally get some bitrate savings.
Is YouTube forgiving as far as taking multiple types of files? I never tried this.
YouTube is pretty cool about multiple file types. It likes MP4s, it likes MKVs. It's pretty good about a lot of things. YouTube though recommends.
Windows.
Yeah. From my understanding, YouTube's backend actually does use FFmpeg to handle and encode all the videos. So I find it kind of funny. But like YouTube's help file, or help page actually suggests encoding everything at 8 megabits a second. So just throw all the bits at it. Just throw as many bits as you want. That'll figure it out.
Using which codec?
I'm sorry?
Using which codec?
The 264 of some kind. So this will actually use the X264 codec, and I'm going to tell it to use CRF of 18, so a pretty good quality. 160 kilobits a second is pretty standard for AAC audio. 128 kilobit is pretty much bare minimum for stereo. The way FFmpeg describes it as 64 bits per second per channel. So a stereo channel, 128 kilobits at least. For a 5.1 surround track, that's actually 6 channels. So you'd want, I think it's 320 kilobits a second. So, all right, we're happy with that. We're gonna output file. We're gonna change this to. We're gonna put this in.
Would that be 384 instead of 320? 6 channel, 6 times 64?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay.
I'm an engineer. I can't do the math without a pencil and paper.
Not while you're busy with other things.
So, demo, let's just call this Sony. This is going to be our output file, Sony MP4. Now, again, like I said before, we can either choose to render the file now, or generate the script. So let's generate a script. Let's go back and put this in our desktop, PhreakNIC 19, demo, Sony. Okay, cool. Now we can close this. So now, all right. screen because that's awesome. So we're just going to do // Sony dot show. Look over here. You can see it's actually pretty bad. Let me full screen this. So you can see it's hitting, going across the cores pretty well. It is, uptime's not terrible. It's coming up on 1. It's using about 230% CPUs, and we got all of our threads here. Okay, so now we have it chugging away. It's just chugging.
How long will it take to render?
That's a very good question. Depends on the CPU, depends on the number of threads, depends on what the hard drive usage, it depends on so many other things.
That part's what, just an hour on the top?
I'm sorry?
That's an hour long?
Yeah, it's about an hour long.
Maybe about 4.5, 5 hours.
About 4.5, 5 hours, maybe a little bit more. So
without a high-end, powerful video card, graphics card doing a lot of parsing.
Kden Live, from what I've seen, it likes CPUs. It likes to run entirely on CPUs. And it's because it's doing a lot of the rendering in CPU, but then also X264, even though there's some GPU optimizations, it doesn't speed it up that much. So we're running this. All right, let's go ahead.
That may change in the future.
I hope so, yes. So we, oops. So now, all right, it says it's finished because I killed it. So now let's do VLC Sony.mp4. Nice pretty slide out. And it's only 31 seconds long because I killed it earlier, but this is what it'll do.
You put that up on YouTube?
Yes.
I just question why put the slide over there. I mean, to see more information and just kind of got rid of it.
I can do that.
Yeah, I like that better.
I
Just so I can see it.
Right. Well, it's just kind of nice to be like, oh yeah, who was talking? Oh yeah,
Oh, you can
it's
do that.
Brandon
Bottom
Hansen.
or scale it.
Adding like captions, Steve, is it easy to like put a text at the bottom, or is that, or would you have to like make a JPEG or something? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's like through the entire thing.
Closed caption or
Or
other?
in like in this case, if you just wanted to put the title, is it like just like a text box?
A
you can type
titling
it in?
tool.
Yeah, like a titling tool, I guess you could say.
Okay, so
You're probably not.
and I've never tried it, so this is
It's
experience
time
time.
you flip through stuff all that.
I really
Under your your effects.
So we can actually do add a let's try title clip.
Make it there. Slide it over.
It's
So you can just, okay. And that would work. You would pop that in one of your videos and just line it up along with the others. I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can say, let me try this again. Add a title clip.
And that would be transparency, I'm guessing.
That's what it is now. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So that is tiny. Let's go ahead and there's the font. 100. Or more. 200. It says, I am a turtle. All right, title clip. Put this right here. There might be some
Which it
tweaks.
does look nice. Other ones do.
So,
Very cool.
the A file will actually have to go to video 3. Like I said, I haven't messed with it too much. There's a lot of tweaks that go into all of this.
How did you find Kden Live?
Google. I looked into Blender a little bit, which actually has a video editor. It's not just a 3D renderer. There's Kden Live, there was OpenShot, there is Lives.
There's a free open source Lightworks,
Lightworks, yes. But Lightworks is actually
technically free
technically free.
for 30 days.
Well,
But
that
you can
was-
get the-
No, that was part of my my talk. Lightworks, if you only want to render 720,
Right, for
It's free.
YouTube, for YouTube.
it's for, well, you can do it or whatever,
Yeah.
but you're
Yeah.
only getting 720p for free.
Right.
And then now
Wave other
you've-
formats
if
to
you've
pay.
got something like what I'm doing that's going to be about 2 hours long, and I want it super high, or I want it 1080 and all that, I'll get it all done first, and then get a 1-month license and render it at
Right.
1080,
Right.
and for $30.
Right.
And for titling, I cheat and use a bit of abandonware called Movie Maker 6.0. And, putting titles on stuff and any kind of wordy graphics, it's really super easy in Movie Maker.
See, I approached Steven, it was totally my fault because I was back up and stuff about making a trailer maybe for this year. And there are certain audio clips from past years and certain speakers I wanted to like feature, like make a commercial.
And
you
this
know?
is all great.
Yeah, this is ideal.
And Lightworks is good for that too. And the thing with Lightworks that I noticed is putting any kind of wording, any typing or lettering or anything on the screen isn't as good there as it is at Movie Maker. But now Blender, you can do just absolutely phenomenal stuff with that if you can figure out how to use it. It is,
Yeah.
but now Linux guys, Blender looks like it's got a real Linux background, because just the way everything works,
Yeah.
looks like it came out of Linux.
And I tried learning Blender a little bit, but it was over my head.
I don't feel so bad.
It's equivalent to lightweight. I mean, it's,
Lightworks was.
lightweight.
Oh, I don't know.
So Blender's
That's what they made the special effects with the dynamic.
Oh, okay.
It's a great.
Oh, I don't
piece
know
of
that
software.
one because it's like,
It's not that expensive now. It's and mine is expensive than special effects.
I think also Blender
$20-something thousand dollars.
GPU rendering.
you can use
It's
Blender
much more
render
GPU
or
friendly to use it
cycles.
than
Yeah, you can use cycles render or Blender render, and I know enough about those to know the names of them. That's what they're actually doing. Lost. I created one effect with Blender, and I still can't get my background alpha to just be alpha.
I would say,
What were you creating
Steven, for the videos this year, because we only had the one feed, maybe we need to figure out a way to keep those
Oh, no.
slides as big as possible.
Right. See, also,
Documentary
nice cool thing about Cable Knife is
on
Nice. You can actually put it into the speaker's podium.
yeah.
Oh, thank you.
So
That would work, because there's nothing going on there.
That was cool.
You can just leave the slides up on the speaker's podium.
I don't know if I was paying that much attention to the mix. I didn't have any buddy games.
Yeah, but no, that's got it.
and I'm a number nerd. I'm an engineer, so yeah, I'd play with it to get it full
He's a super
there.
cool
But yeah, I mean you can play around a little bit with it.
Well, thanks very much for showing this. This is something I didn't know even got started, so.
So
all together.
Can you play that one more time?